And there was a super from Sideman. Did you get to watching Preach's reaction and thoughts to your, the video on Mythic Sepulchre? I did. I think there's one thing that I think fundamentally, I don't want to say he missed the mark, or maybe we didn't do a good enough job of like communicating it thoroughly. The point of that video very much was, what are the numbers that are making Blizzard do these nerfs? I think a lot of Mike's point was kind of like, and could be getting it wrong, his point was kind of more like, there's less people playing the game. Like, I don't know, 70% of the Mythic guilds, or, people that I know have just, like, quit. So, there's almost no point looking at Sepulchre's numbers because so many people have quit. Yet, in my head, the point of that video was trying to demystify for our audience why Blizzard have been doing all of these successive nerfs, because it's something the community's been talking about. I think that's basically the core of it. That, and maybe the unique sort of mix of circumstances that led to this particularly being a problem for Sepulchre as compared to some previous tiers they've had in the game. Yeah. So I think that's mostly it. Ultimately, Mike does make, like, what is, in a sort of a macro sense, the far more important point, which is, the problem is the players have left. So this video was more just about, like, well, what is engagement in this raid compared to others? But yes, absolutely the big thing to talk about is there are less people playing WoW. Why is it that TBC Classics numbers seem to be so humongous compared to retail? I mean, one of those is China. Definitely. From what we can tell anyway. But, I mean, a large part of that is just less people playing retail, 100%. And, there's many cases you would think that maybe Mythic is, like, the most sticky audience because goddamn they're dedicated. The fucking hoops that they have jumped through to keep on playing this game. But if they maybe see that, like, Limit gives up and goes home and then finishes it. Yeah. I think some of his points, like, people saw that and thought, fuck this, man. They've missed the mark. I'm not putting my time into this. Mm-hmm. So, we'll have to see. I think overall just slightly different goals and points being made, but I think broadly we'd agree and stuff. So, yeah, that's a fun little one. Don't know, did you catch any of that, Matt?
I remember watching through a little bit of it, but I was mostly hearing what you were saying about it, kind of, as far as I'm concerned. It's just that I'm trying to think. There's something else about TBC Classic I wanted to say. I think it might just be because I want to say it's easier. The amount of gameplay effort you put in is not really there. It's so much slower. It's so much more kind of guaranteed a lot of the time, because it's really hard. I mean, maybe if you're like doing stuff that's actually hard in terms of like numerically, maybe it's different. But to me, it just feels like it's so people. Yeah, I think I've got it. World of Warcraft was never hard, nor was it ever meant to be hard. So the people who wanted it to be hard and thought of it as hard were often this nightmare, like just this little bubble that got kind of fired off into the ether. But the game moved with them instead of moving with everyone else. That's a really very generic, how do I put this? A very generalized take on it. There's a lot of nuance I'm missing by saying that, but it certainly feels that way overall, where it's like, it was just easier and more kind of, I'll put the time in, get the reward, as opposed to now where you put the time in and you're like that meme gif of the person hitting the keyboard sweating like crazy. Feels more like that a lot of the time. And maybe,
yeah, I guess, like, is it bashing in, is the game about a super hard mastery challenge? Or is it about bashing in a dragon's head to get some loot with your friends? And I think maybe at the start of the game, it's perhaps a little bit more like that. I mean, fuck, like, the video about, dots, whelps, it's the raid leader screaming in Onyxia. Like, you think about the mechanics that they were doing compared to some of the shit that the game asks people to do now, and it's like, fucking hell. Yes. The game definitely got more mechanically complex over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where some of the problems of like rating an M+ come. It's
like an inevitable cycle.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's inevitable unless the developers put up really, really massively well-built walls against it. It's just going to get that way. I mean, even I think any game that goes updates is going to have to cater more for the players who play it the most.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, League of Legends, for example, if you played League when it was relatively new, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember playing Annie from back in the day. I remember playing Teemo. Or a little bit out there, I remember playing Caitlyn when she was first out. Or maybe you're really hardcore and you played Riven when she came out. And then you look now at any champion and you're like, what? How am I supposed to parse this? Why does every button have 7 abilities? Or 7 passives? What the fuck is going on? Do I need a degree in game design to understand what my champion's Q does now?
Sometimes
my
it's a bit like
passive?
that.
It feels that way, and that's like the consistent kind of complexity that builds up over time. And a lot of the players kind of built up with that. So now you see like point and click stuns are all gone because that was, who the fuck designed that? That was stupid. Through the hindsight of, well, the game's clearly all skill shots and all really complicated like stuff. Like Dragon used to give you golden experience. Now there are 4 types of dragon. Collect them all, or collect multiples of each kind, and that strategy changes like how you kind of go Baron wise. And that's just like, this is just keep like getting more and more and more and more and more and more and more, just more complex. World of Warcraft, a little bit of that. Not really super complex in terms of how you press buttons and stuff, but like there is clearly the self-indulgence of the designers going harder, more complicated, harder, more complicated. And then the players are like running alongside them going, fuck yeah, we like this running pace. But they have the designers haven't went, there's a lot less people running with us than before. Where'd they all go? Oh, as soon as we started sprinting, everyone's like, I'm not fucking doing that. There's a little bit of that going on. And it's like a little bit of, that's a very specific point about a specific audience. That's not like, fuck World of Warcraft for doing this. It's like inevitable, natural in a way. But it definitely is what kind of happened.
Yeah.
Basically. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, Marcus said laughs in Asphelios. Yeah, it was that one who was, I think it was like a moon dude. And I was like, what is happening to this? Why is this the most complicated thing ever put into League of Legends? Why do you have, it was like 3 or 4 different weapons you could swap between, the all different effects.
Oh, I remember you showing
like,
me that.
Jesus Christ, yeah.